Hi, my name is Bruce Rhodes, and I'm the Conference Superintendent of the Southern Michigan Conference of the Free Methodist Church USA. We're offering a video training piece today to help delegates come into a great understanding of what their responsibilities really are in the local church level. Now, this is just an overview. There will be additional segments that will be offered, but we recognize that when new delegates are elected in their local churches, that a lot of times they don't really know what a delegate's supposed to do. So we've developed this training in order to help orientate you to the specific responsibilities and duties of being a delegate in the local church and in our conference. So I congratulate you on your election. It's a vote of confidence really in who you are in terms of your maturity and capability. And I look forward to being able to greet all of you when we get together at our annual conference later on this summer. Now, this presentation really starts with this value statement about how we value the participation of lay people in the life of the Free Methodist Church, particularly in our annual conference. It has historically been our value that we would have on the conference level equal representation between both lay people and clergy members in how we give oversight or how we govern the affairs of the annual conference. So that means in the ministerial development team or the ministerial appointments committee or even the conference leadership board or even some of the other administrative teams that we strive to have half of the people on each team that are bringing in the perspective of the clergy member of the conference and half the people on the team bringing the perspective of the lay. So the Free Methodist Church does recognize these particular groups. And the first group is the ordained member, the pastors, the clergy of the annual conference. They actually hold their membership not in the local church. They hold their membership in the annual conference. And that means that they're developed and vetted through the conference. They're appointed and deployed and trained and evaluated through the conference through our ministerial development team, and they're subject to the appointment, the annual appointment of the ministerial appointments team. So this group of people in our annual conference is the clergy group, and the second group is the delegates group or the lay people, and that includes you. You participate in our annual conference meeting as elected delegates, and when you come, you're representing your local church to the annual conference. Now, lay delegates carry a lot of responsibilities. Some of those responsibilities they carry in their local church, and some of their responsibilities they are to fulfill to the annual conference. So let's take a few moments and just unpack what these are. First, your responsibilities as a lay delegate in your church essentially establishes your membership in our annual conference meeting. So when you're elected, when you come to the annual conference meeting, you actually bring what's called, it's a piece of paper, and it's called your credentials. And these credentials let you in the door, essentially, and they find your seat in the annual conference where you'll participate in that meeting. Now, you have specific responsibilities as a delegate in your local church. If your church has more than one delegate, your bylaws will outline which delegate actually is seated on the local church board of administration. And if your church has more than one delegate and a pastor's cabinet, your local church bylaws will indicate which delegate also serves on that pastor's cabinet. Delegates also are to ensure that the significant action of the annual conference is being communicated back to the church. And we're working hard on learning how to be better communicating between the work of the annual conference with the local churches. And we have more work that we'll be doing. Now, delegates also serve as liaisons between the congregation and the appointed pastors in that church. And that is a significant responsibility. Sometimes delegates are called upon to the delicate task of promoting understanding and eliminating, relational tension that sometimes arises in our church. Sometimes a delegate needs to make the pastor aware if there's something going on that the pastor should be made aware of, because we know there are times pastoral or congregational tension taking place, and the delegate acts as that important HR person to help bring the parties together, to help foster understanding, to help increase communication, and in order to address those tensions so that the church can really move forward significantly in the mission of Jesus. When a delegate feels the task is too great and they need additional support, we encourage our delegates to contact the conference superintendent and to involve them in the conversation so that we can promote congregational unity and peace. So the delegates serve in this HR function when there's crisis, but the delegates also need to understand that they really are the point people for bringing honor and encouragement to the pastor as well. We don't want delegates to just be telling the pastor there's a problem every time someone has a problem. We need to be wise in that, but we also want to be wise in dispensing grace to our pastors. The delegate really should be the one that welcomes back the pastor. This was one of the neat things that many years ago in my pastoral ministry that we used to do, the Sunday after annual conference or one soon after. When I was being reappointed back to my church, the delegate would bring that report to the body and would say, we're very happy to have our pastor reappointed for another year. Of course, I was always assuming they were very happy about that. But it was just a wonderful way to welcome back the pastor and the family for another year of ministry. Then there's the Clergy Appreciation Month in the fall. There's birthdays and anniversaries, and there's the Christmas season. And many of our churches do wonderful jobs being a blessing to their pastors. And many times it falls upon the delegate, really, to spearhead those sorts of special occasions and to be sensitive to those opportunities. So I would say thank you in advance for doing those sorts of things and serving your pastor and loving on them in that kind of way. So besides your responsibilities to the local church, you also have responsibilities to the annual conference. And I want to kind of outline those. Again, I mentioned a few moments ago that when you're elected as a delegate in your annual conference, you also, by virtue of that election, serve as a delegate at the annual conference meeting, which takes place later on this summer. You actually bring that piece of paper I talked about, the credentials, which are issued to you by the secretary, the society secretary of your church, and those indicate that you've been duly elected to represent your church and to serve in the annual conference meeting. So the delegates serve not just as a liaison between the pastor and the congregation, but they also serve a very important function as a liaison between their church and the annual conference. And as such, we really do rely upon the leadership and the insight of lay delegates to communicate with the conference utilizing a variety of assessment tools that we have developed. Now, there's one tool in particular which is key and which only delegates participate on, and that is the confidential lay delegate report. If you are the lead delegate of your church, if there are more than one delegate, there will be a lead by virtue of the election. You will receive a communication from my office in the fall with this particular form, the confidential lay delegates report. And this report asks a simple question: are you in favor of the reappointment of your pastor for another year? And it gives you a box to check yes, no, or maybe, and space for comments. Then the second question is this the feeling, or is this the response of all the delegates? Do you think this fairly represents all the delegates involved? And it would be yes or no, and it would leave room for a signature and a date. When we receive those sorts of reports, those are very important for our Ministerial Appointments Committee to look. We have to evaluate the needs of the entire annual conference as well as be sensitive to the changes going on in churches. So that's a particular way in which you help us give oversight in the appointment of our pastors. Now, there are two more tools that we've developed that we want to make sure you're aware of, and that also come to your church in the fall. The one is the local pastor's evaluation, or the lead pastor evaluation. And we have members of the local board of administration complete a fairly extensive evaluation measuring a variety of areas of pastoral effectiveness. And we get those particular reports back from your local Board of Administration. We collate the numbers, and that gives us an opportunity to sit down with your lead pastor to review the results so that our pastors can learn and improve in their ministry of leadership in the local church level. And then the third tool is the local board of evaluation, the local board evaluation. And again, the local board members, Board of Administration members, they give an assessment on the fruitfulness and the health of the church, as well as a couple narrative questions about what they see as opportunities or hindrances to congregational health and fruitfulness. These are important tools that we use every year in order to analyze what the needs of the local church are. We want every church to be on mission with Jesus. We want every church to be healthy. We want every lead pastor to be the best they can be. And these tools give us the necessary feedback in order to advance the mission of Jesus in each of our local churches. Because we value equal representation between clergy and lay members, our conference nominating team is always seeking to identify sharp leaders amongst our church delegates that can serve on important conference teams and in important conference structures. When you see a nominating ballot that comes out every fall or every spring before annual conference, you will see that there's lay members from our local churches which are listed on that ballot, and which include an opportunity for all members of the conference, the delegates, and the clergy to nominate or to elect certain lay members to these particular teams. It's a wonderful part of what it means to be part of the Free Methodist Church. And we encourage our delegates to really participate, model participation in all of the resourcing events that our conference offers. We're investing a lot of resource in these years because we want to raise the level of the leadership culture in our conference. So that's why we sponsor our Ignite Intensive several times a year. Our bishops hold regional meetings. We're privileged to be one of the annual conferences that get to host the regional meetings with our bishops. We just had our E3 event just weeks ago. And it's very important that your church stay involved in the life of the annual conference. Together, the annual conference and our local churches really are better together. Now, the most critical moment in the work of a delegate is when there are pastoral transitions taking place. That is the most critical moment. So we lean heavily upon the delegates and not just evaluating the lead pastor through the confidential report I mentioned moments earlier. We will rely heavily on the delegates to help message the communication of upcoming pastoral transitions and to work closely with the conference superintendent and the ministerial appointment committee and not just helping the outgoing pastor move on, but helping the incoming pastor come in. One of the particular moments where that is true is when the delegates actually meet with the superintendent and the candidate in a meet and greet. We've been doing several of those this particular spring, but it's a wonderful opportunity for the delegate to help us read the fit of the pastor that our appointments team wants to place in churches. So, I met with a group of delegates just a couple nights ago, and they had never done it. They had a long-term pastor. It was their first rodeo, and we really had a wonderful time of sharing together what this transition looks like and how it takes place and what their role was, and it was a real win for them and a real win for the church. Let me wrap it up. We believe that leadership is a privilege. I mean, we really believe that. Leadership is a privilege, so we're committed to offering additional training segments beyond this introductory one today in order to help you move forward in your responsibilities. You've had a lot of responsibility thrust upon you, and it's new, and it probably feels a little bit like Saul's armor, right? It doesn't quite fit. We want you to know that we are committed to helping you develop as the lay leader you are and to assist both the conference and the local church in moving the mission of Jesus forward. So we wish you all success, and we know that if there's any way that we can serve you and to help you better understand your responsibilities and navigate the future in your local church setting, to please let us know here at the conference office, and we'll look forward to the opportunity to share with you there. Thank you so much.